Hi, everyone. Join us today as we journey to Liberia to explore radical generosity in motion, a transformative school bus project that is breaking 100 years of history and steering us towards a brighter future. I will be speaking with Jallah, the founder of Yes Liberia and country lead of GivingTuesday Liberia. Together, we're about to explore the profound impact of the Radical Generosity Bus program, how this initiative is bridging communities and empowering children and parents. Guys, this is a ride you don't want to miss. I recommend you fasten your seatbelt for a unique tale that is quite literally in motion, and generosity is truly in the driver's seat. Welcome everyone to the Open to Giving podcast, where we celebrate generosity in all its forms. This is the first episode of our second series titled the Cheche series. And yes, we want to spark generosity across the continent. Today's episode, titled Radical Generosity in Motion, is actually a special one. And our guest today is the visionary behind it all. Meet Jallah, the CEO of Yes Liberia and country lead of GivingTuesday Liberia. Welcome, Jallah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, Jallah is a change maker. He has envisioned the Radical Generosity Bus program. He has lived the experience of Liberian students, and his passion for education, for innovation and generosity has also brought us to this day where we are talking about this topic. But before we go into this podcast, Jallah, are you ready? Because we have our own culture where every guest tells us something about them that has to do with generosity, right? So I need you to pick a number between 1 and 21, and then I ask you a question and you answer.
Let's go with 9.
9. Why 9?
9 is my favorite number.
Oh, people do favorite numbers. That's interesting.
Oh, yes, that's a big deal in
Okay.
my That's a big deal in my family.
Oh, that's nice. Okay. So number 9. What is the most unexpected gift you've received this year, and how did it make you feel?
The most unexpected gift I received this year. Boy. Well, whenever you receive a gift, whether you are someone who cares about surprises or not, whenever you receive a gift, it should make you feel special. I think I was somewhere, not even in a charitable space, if you will. It was at church, and we were in a Bible study, and someone asked me, "So what are you doing the next 2 weeks?" I say, "In the next 2 weeks, I won't be here. I will be in Liberia." And working on this school bus program. And I had no clue that he did not even know that I did charity work. And so he said, "Whoa, tell me about that." And I, went ahead and told him about it. I came home 2 days later. He sent me a check for a donation. I mean, he's a church member. I don't know him personally, but we do kind of sit in the same area in church. And he sent me a donation. So I thought that was really awesome, because sometimes we talk to people a lot about our work and we get no donation from them. They feel very inspired by it, but not able to support financially. For him to do that unexpected to me, I thought was amazing. So yeah, I think, and that happens, I think, not so frequently. This is the first time it has actually happened to me. So I thought it was cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is cool. You did not ask for anything and he donated. That's amazing. Okay, your last number. Pick a number, except 9.
All right, let's go with number 1, because my plan is that our work becomes the number 1 talked about work in Liberia. So let's go with number 1.
Yay! If you had one superpower that could make this world a better place or save our world from a problem, what would it be?
Mhm. I would make everyone addicted to generosity.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a new one.
I will. I think a lot of the problems we have in the world today has to do about us thinking too much and caring too much only about ourselves and neglecting
Okay.
all of the challenges around us. But I think if we could feel and think about other people's issues and try to resolve those issues, if we all care so much to share and to give, then we have less of a problem in this world. So I will make everyone addicted to generosity.
Mm-hmm. That's a new one. An addiction. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for participating in that. And now we're going into the podcast proper. Let's talk about the Radical Generosity Bus program. I know I've asked you this question before, but for our audience and those that probably do not know what you do, who you are, do you want to talk about you being the country lead of Giving Tuesday Liberia, your work at ES Liberia, and how, this bus program came about?
Yeah, sure. So thank you. Thank you. I have been in the charitable space and doing this sort of work as a volunteer for a very long time. Started in high school and kind of just forgot about helping people at a certain stage of my life while I was still in high school. By this time I had moved to the US and was enjoying the American life, totally forgetting where I came from. And a gentleman came from, I think, Rwanda and spoke about his work. And I became a volunteer for him instantly because what he said on stage at that time, this is several years ago, at that time, he said a few things on stage and it made me feel like he was talking about my own personal life. So I raised my hand and started to volunteer for him. Fast forward several years later, I moved from volunteering to becoming a sponsor and then subsequently founding my own organization in Liberia to do the same work he was doing at the time in Rwanda and Somalia, basically paying tuition for kids. I was one of those kids in Africa whose tuition was paid before I got a chance to get to the US. And I felt really bad about it. So I started supporting his work. And then later on, became a founder of Yes Liberia in Liberia. And while I did this work in Liberia, it was the typical charity sort of work where you kind of tweak your program to sometimes apply for grants, even though you know that it's not really meaningful to you. You needed the funds to really do your work. So I quickly became really frustrated by that. And we will put all of this work in, we'll get no funding from anywhere. But every time we see a new grant, there will be different sets of questions. Well, I usually do a follow-up. This is just something I do in my personal life. If I apply for a job and didn't get that job after a week or so, I will call that office again and I will ask them, what did I do wrong during the interview? How can I better myself? And they'll give me some take on that, and I would prepare myself for the next opportunity. So I did this with several grant foundations, and it was just still frustrating. It seems that you could never get a grant. But for us, maybe because we're just a small nonprofit organization, I think we're only 6 years in. And so I started Googling and saying there has to be a different way to the way people do this work. Why is it that almost 98% of our support, financial support, comes from elsewhere and not from Liberia? We have rich people in Liberia, we have middle class in Liberia, but we weren't getting any financial support from there. 6 years in, we had not gotten a penny in donation from anyone in Liberia. All of our donations came from abroad. And so it was through that process, that research process, I found Giving Tuesday. And it was just really strange to me that this idea that we can actually solve our own problems, not the typical go and be a change maker in your community sort of approach, but really empowering those people who were at the time part of Giving Tuesday. And it was a small number. I'm talking about 2017 was when I researched and found Giving Tuesday. And I reached out and said, hey, I want to be a part of you guys. And at the time, I don't think there was a process yet in place to really start adapting or bringing on organizations in different countries. There were a few countries in Europe and the United States. I think one or two in South America, and maybe one in Africa. But at the time, they were not called global leaders. So I couldn't be a participant within Giving Tuesday the way I wanted to or expected. And I would say maybe I didn't even understand what it was at the time. And a year later, I called again, asking how I could be a part of Giving Tuesday. At this time, they said, oh, yes, we have few people in Africa. There is one in South Africa, one in Tanzania, and Kenya. And we will partner you with those folks to maybe give you a little bit of an insight. And so I was connected with a gentleman in Kenya. He gave me a little bit of an insight. And I just became so excited. I joined, literally probably 2 or 3 months before the Giving Tuesday Summit that year. I went to the summit. I was invited to it. And it just blew my mind to see people who are thinking exactly the way you think in the same room from so many different cultures and countries so many different complexions or races, if you will. It was one of those things that I would never forget. And I believe it was in the Dominican Republic. And I came back from that summit saying this is the right approach to how charity work should be done. We should be working with people in our local communities. We should be telling our local stories. We should be focusing on the problems that we see all around us rather than trying to solve a problem because someone else says this problem is important. And so from that time, I just kind of stuck with Giving Tuesday. And I'll tell you, I really, really enjoy the way this movement is changing the world. I really enjoy the connections I've made, the people I've met through Giving Tuesday. And so my next big item in Liberia was how can I really change my program? And through that, I decided to came up with this crazy idea that I would leave the report. And leaving the report meant I would stop looking only at the reports we got from our field work staff and making decisions on those reports. I wanted to learn more about the kids. So I spent time randomly staying at different kids' homes who have never seen me from anywhere. Some of them didn't even know I was the founder of Yes Liberia. They just thought I was one of the volunteers. And I lived in their homes for one night in few homes, walked to school with them. Basically, I shadowed each of these kids. And then I really understood the challenges they went through. When I came back and explained that to my board, they asked me, what do you guys want to do? What do you want to do about it? I said, I think finding, fundraising, purchasing, and sending a school bus to Liberia would be the way to go. It would help us to transport some of these kids to school because in one of my experiences, living the report, I walked about 2 miles to school with one of the kids. I was super tired. He wasn't tired, but I was super tired. And so I explained that to them. And I mean, the rest is history. We fundraised for the bus, purchased it, ship it to Liberia. So the initial goal for the bus was to transport kids to school and also use the bus as an avenue or an outlet for us to really impact their lives in different ways. And I tell you, that program is expanding, and we'll talk about that more maybe in subsequent questions. But I hope I answer your question. Sorry for being a little bit long-winded there.
Yes, you did. I mean, let's go back to the fact that you you had to experience what these kids go through to come up with this idea. How long did it take you? How many kids did you, understudy? I don't know if that's the word, before coming up with this idea. Why did you even do it in the first place?
Well, when you are an African, especially African youth, usually you're not given a platform to tell your story or to explain your own problems. Your problems are always explained by those who are several years older than you, who do not even understand the challenges you go through. But they explain your problem based on their upbringing, which is a totally different time period. And so I thought about that on my way to Liberia. At the time, I lived in the Pennsylvania area in the US. And I thought about that a lot on my flight to Liberia. I was reading a book that had nothing to do with charity work at the time on my first flight before I got to Europe. And that book was called, or I think it was called The Seven Regrets or Seven Types of Regrets. And through that, I was like, I'm going to regret this if I go to Liberia and I can't really experience these kids' lives. And I just go and do what every other Westerners will do. Stay in your fancy office, have your staff, maybe train them on something new on how your new process should work, and have maybe 1 or 2 days where you see people here and there that you support, and that's basically it. I wanted to go deeper than that because growing up there in Liberia, I knew I'd never met any nonprofit or foundation founder who supported me. I never met the people who even paid my tuition for 4 years. And so I wanted that to be different, but I didn't want these kids to know who I am as a founder because I thought by knowing that they will actually maybe think the way they talk to me, maybe they will be shy a little bit. They won't be who they are. So
Right.
thankfully, I am Liberian and I look like them and I sound like them in some ways. And so I could pretend to be a volunteer. So I had my t-shirt on that says volunteer of Yes Liberia. And I went through meeting with 10 different kids in different communities. Some of them were in the city, Monrovia. Some were in the rural parts of the country. In some places we slept, it was raining and the floor was wet where we slept. So I wouldn't advise anyone to do anything like that if you're not prepared to go through it. But I thought it was something that I
Right.
would never, ever take back. So that was my reasoning behind. I really wanted the kids to their story to be told through their own eyes, through their own experiences. And it was very funny in Africa, not just Liberia, all over Africa, we are very, very hospitable. So even when a stranger stops by your house, you're finding the best things you have to give that stranger. So I remember some of these women, mothers, going and looking in their traveling bags and finding a very new bed sheet that they have washed for a long time and kept there, and no one slept on that, and trying to give me that. And I said to them, I didn't want anything different. I wanted to do exactly what the kids did every day in their respective homes. Even going in the morning to fetch water and coming and bringing a lot of water back to the house before you go to school, right? Some of the kids did that.
Right.
So I did that too. I went with them, fetch water, we walked back home, we put in a bigger drum or bucket until it was time for the mom to say, yes, I'm okay. Some of them were very shy to say that to me, but I wanted to do that. So it was really inspiring to see that. And then that also gave the kids an opportunity to feel very comfortable to talk to me on any level. But you see so much that you cannot see or feel
Mm,
through a report. And sometimes that's important to be a part of your decision making.
absolutely. This process, it's a lot. And I'm thinking personally, because I'm a period poverty, I fight against period poverty in my own little community. And I'm like, I think I need to do something that would really allow me to understand, what girls go through in my community and not just assume, that
Right.
they need pads, for example. So this is beyond amazing, Jala. And the fact that some of these families you go to stay or sleep over, they actually give you food out of the little that they have. They try to make you comfortable. That is beautiful, I have to say.
Yes.
Moving on, because if we keep talking about your experience with these kids, we might talk for hours. And you should write a book. Let's talk about the parental involvement of this BOSS project. Um, because the last time we spoke, you talked about how you want the parents to also feel like they're part of what's happening. And parental involvement is such a unique aspect of this program. How do you see this direct engagement contributing to the growth of the student? Also, in what ways do you think parents have become integral, we know that parents are important to a child's educational experience, but what do you see and how do you see it that parents have become integral to the fabric of a child's educational experience through this bus program?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is one thing that I have pushed for a lot with my board, with people in Liberia, and sometimes you get pushback from that. People start to focus more on the safety issues for the kids rather than what the kids really need, and sometimes people try to persuade you rather from the realistic thing that could really impact these kids' lives. So when I brought up the idea that I think parents should be volunteer on this bus, and we should call them bus monitors. People kind of laughed at the idea. First, someone said to me, "This would never work because those parents are always going to the market to sell. They won't have time to do that." And I thought about my own mom who used to sell potato grains every morning for me to at least have something to eat or to pay our school fees when we could afford a little bit. And I said, I think I knew if someone asked my mom to say, help me a little bit and I will help pay your kids' tuition and not even helping that person specifically, but helping their own child, I think my mom would have jumped at the idea. So we quickly sent a message to Liberia and said, let's talk to some of our parents there and see if they will be willing to. So we tested the idea, saying to our parents, we want to repaint the Yes Liberia office space in Liberia. Would there be anyone interested in volunteering to paint the office? Mind you, we have never asked our parents to volunteer for us. In fact, we don't. We want them to volunteer, but for every other organization, but more importantly, in their own communities, not for our organization. And so we got, in one day's time, we got about 8 parents raising their hands and saying, we want to paint. And we gave them a very short notice because when you're in Africa, people say they want to do XYZ. Sometimes they have other things that become important and they don't show up, or they have no concept of letting you know. We know the stories. It doesn't mean that they're not interested in helping. It just means that they haven't been experienced or exposed to this sort of volunteer work. But to our surprise, we gave them the notice on, I think, a Thursday, and we were painting the office on a Saturday. We already have people to paint this office, but on that day, three parents show up with their kids. One of the parents even showed up with a paintbrush he brought himself. And so I knew that people were just sitting by and willing to do something because they value this work so much more than we ourselves can imagine. So we built this already in our process. We have an app that is going to allow parents, even the ones who cannot read, could just call the office and say, hey, I want to volunteer on the bus to be a bus monitor for one day or for even 2 hours, because we broke this down into morning sections and evening sections. So you could come for 1 hour and be on the bus, or 2 hours while we drop some kids off, and come in the afternoon session when we're taking them and dropping them from school to home. And so we have some parents who have already giving us the interest and they want to do that. And we're not asking of them anything much to do, but to be a monitor on the bus. So when you ask, why is this important? Let's just think about this for a second. Every research shows that the more time parents spend with their kids, the more they are able to impact their lives, the more they are showing love to those kids without even speaking about love. And so in Liberia and anywhere else, I think the more opportunities we can create for parents to show to their kids that this is important for you to do, that I want you to be a part of this program and to do this, but I'm not only going to tell you how to do it, I myself going to be a volunteer so you can see how important this is. This is a completely new concept in Liberia. I don't know about so many other African countries, but in Liberia, this is a completely new process. This a concept rather. This has never been done before. And so it's exciting to see that parents are willing to do this. They are super excited about it. And I'll just end with saying that this extends even to the parents. Let me give you a quick example about this when it comes to the kids, rather. Yesterday, I got this story about one of the students in Liberia. And we had we ran the bus this past Saturday, and we called it the I Love You story. We took the bus with parents and students. We took them to a rural part of the country, and we put them in an area where we wanted to speak to them about the importance of even saying that phrase, I love you. Right? It's not typical in our culture. Maybe where you are and wherever you are is probably not typical there as well. So we
It
started by
is.
just so we started by just saying who's in love, and all of the kids started laughing because they thought something else already, right? They thought from a romantic standpoint. And I wanted these kids to really understand why it's important to hear that from your parents. Maybe not in those exact terms, but maybe even in your tribal language. Why it's important for you to know that your parents care about you, even if they're not showing that in the most loving way. Can we find a way for them to say it to you? So that was the essence of this work. We isolated the kids and the parents, asked them a few questions, asked the parents when was the last time they heard that from their parents. Do they even remember? Did the same to the kids? And we captured these stories. So before this work happened, we parked our bus in Monrovia and had already made announcements for all the kids and their parents to come. And they told us which stop they would be at. So we'll park the bus at specific stops and pick them up. Every parent should come with their kid, or every kid should come with their parent. But we got to this spot and there was only one kid out of 50 kids we took from the capital to meet with other kids in the rural parts. Only one kid had no parent. And we asked him why his mom wasn't there. And he said his mom could not afford to come. They had no money to come because we weren't going to pay for them to come from everywhere to come to these stops. Some of them don't live so close to the main road or to these stops. So the mother couldn't make it. This little boy, I think he's in about 7th or 8th grade, he took his sneakers, probably the last pair he has. He took that sneakers and he pawned the sneakers to get money to pay his own way so that he can be on this bus to go and be a part of this project. Now, let's think about that for a second. People, why will a young kid even have the idea to think about that, right? That's not something we think about and say, this is so important to me. I know that my parents will even get mad at me for pawning my sneakers, but I'm going to do this because this is that much important to me. So we were supposed to turn any kid back who didn't come with their parents, but we immediately contacted the parents when we heard our story. And this kid went with us. So now our concept has changed a little bit. We have to tell a little story about this one child. That tells you that people in Africa, regardless of whatever you're hearing, when people say we are sitting in our respective countries, in our communities, waiting for somebody to just give us a helping hand, that is absolutely not true. We are there willing to work to change our circumstances, to improve our lives, but sometimes our stories aren't told. Sometimes we are not given the platforms. And worst of all, sometimes those who come to give us a platform are not intended to give us a platform or for the right reasons. We want to change all of that with a single school bus program in Liberia.
Wow. First off, I want to meet this boy that sold his sneakers just to be a part of this project. My God, my goodness. I want to know everything about him. Wow. Moving on. I don't think we can ever move on, but let's talk about something else. Another feature that is still part of this boss project, your talk time sessions. I believe these are sessions where kids on the bus learn about generosity from people they look up to, from people we see as role models. I mean, can you tell our listeners more about these sessions and the potential they have to inspire the next generation? How is it that you were able to envision these weekly talks contributing to shaping the aspirations of these children?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's another great question. When you have a program like this, you have to always make room to be flexible so that some of the brighter ideas can be implemented. This wasn't something we thought about when we purchased this bus and said we're going to have talk time on the bus. And I was talking to a colleague, I'll say in Nairobi recently, and she actually suggested that we should call this GiveX, and that just kind of blew my mind because we have thought about this in different ways, but the concept of think even bigger to call this GiveX, where people anywhere who are interested in helping can help, was just something that put everything into perspective. And so what is this going to look like? First, we started with those in Liberia. Again, when you see people who look like you and have experienced your challenges and are now somewhere else in their lives and doing well, you're more likely to be inspired to be like that person or to do well. But if I was a kid in Liberia and you brought someone from Europe and this person told me how they are now a sitting judge in their country, I would have no clue of how that even possible. Even if they told me they grew up on a farm and they did hard work, it wouldn't resonate with me. So in Liberia, we first targeted a professional group. Everyone knows about the Rotary clubs. They are in almost every country. So we reached out to the Rotary Club and we said, hey, we have this program that's coming to Liberia. I would love to do a presentation at one of your meetings. And it took a while, but it gave me an opportunity. And through that opportunity, I challenged them. I said, you guys are doing these amazing smaller projects in different places, but all of you came from humble beginnings. What will it be like to have a space where you can tell your inspiring stories on where you came from and where you are now to kids who are currently in a position you once were in? And so one of the ladies said, I would love to be a part of that. Few of them said they would love to be a part of that. And then the president of the club said we should actually make this a process where our folks can sign up to present or to tell the story for a few minutes. And so we built that into the bus program. But that was just the Rotary Club, and we're thinking Liberia and people within Liberia. But this whole Give X idea is think about this as TED Talk sort of approach, right? Where if you woke up one morning and you had a bad day the previous day and you are thankful to God the next day. Sorry, I'm a Christian, so sometimes God will come up a little bit, and I hope that's okay with some of you. But
Absolutely.
you woke up the next day and you said, thank God for what I went through yesterday. I feel so blessed. And then maybe you thought about the kids who are riding this bus. You may just want to say, you know what, I'm going to do a short video clip and I want to send this video clip to these kids to just tell them I hope they have a good day today and I'm praying for them. That clip can be sent through our process and that clip will be played in Liberia. Obviously, we'll review the clip first because we are dealing with people's children to make sure there's no profanity and anything else that's going to persuade them for other reasons. But we want people in any and every country who are passionate about generosity to be a part of this bus. We want people with great ideas who have a way of actually experimenting something brilliant that they want to do that may not be possible in their country to say, I'm going to pick Liberia and this school bus program, and I'm going to come there and implement some sort of even pilot project on this bus. We call it a radical generosity bus on the move for a reason. It's to make sure kids have the access to the bus at any time that is possible, but not to just sit on a bus and ride to school, but to be inspired, to be motivated, to learn something new every single time they're on that bus. So implementing part of Giving Tuesday, because that's a network that has really, really impacted the way we do things in Liberia. With Yes Liberia, we are going to be also teaching kids to this Give S program about Giving Tuesday. We'll be teaching kids every day. I'm sorry, not necessarily every day, but every week they're going to learn something about Giving Tuesday. They're going to be challenged to implement what they've learned the previous week. We're going to be taking notes of that. We're going to do some amazing things in Liberia that has never ever been done before. When I even park the bus now in Liberia and you see people just kind of watching it like it's in a movie as it travels on the road, it's just so inspiring. So I can't wait. I can't wait for us to actually formally, I should say, launch the bus on Giving Tuesday this year. We're already using the bus for so many different things with our students. Other organizations are renting the bus already to use it for their programs. We have 4 collaborators of amazing, amazing organizations. One of the organizations is actually an extension of the Nobel Peace Prize winner from Liberia, Lima Bowie, our youth group, just kind of partner with us this year for Giving Tuesday. So we think we'll be doing some amazing things, but it will be simple this year. We are going to do pop-up stops across the entire capital city of Liberia, stopping at different locations, professional making speeches, young people performing, and talking about what radical generosity means. And it'll be easy to talk about this because our bus literally says on the front of it and on the side of it, the radical generosity bus. I hope I answer your question.
Yes, you did. Oh my God, guys. If you are listening to this podcast, you know by now that every second of this podcast is kind of like a gem, like I'm discovering new things. Jallah, where do I sign up to send in my talk time sessions? Where do I send in my own GiveX videos to inspire children across the continent? I
Thank you, thank
love
you.
this.
Thank you. Thank you. Great question. I think by the 20th of this month, so 7 days
Okay.
before, or I should say 9 days before Giving Tuesday, we are going to be
Okay.
releasing the bus program on our website. So there will be a simple process. You go to the school bus program on our website. You can click on
Okay.
any of the 6 things that you want to do, whether it's a small donation to the bus, whether it's recording a video and sending that video to kids, as I said, or signing up to say I'm an expert in certain things, or I'm not expert professionally, but I'm an expert by my experience. And so I want to teach these kids for 10 minutes in person in Liberia. If you're in Liberia, you can do that. And if you're not in Liberia, you could create a short video teaching kids or explaining certain concepts to kids. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's at a kids level because our kids most of them are younger kids. We deal with high school students and below. And so whatever you present to us, we'll hope that it can be something that the kids can actually absorb. But it'll be easy process to sign up on our website. We're also giving room to people who may not want to do any of that, but may be interested in actually proposing a newer idea and maybe working with us on how to implement that because school will close, right? When school closes, there's a
Right.
whole summer months where the kids will not be on the bus going to school. We need to fill that idle time. I think my mom used to say idle time is the devil's time. So we want to fill that others time with
Right.
positive thinking, positive people to make sure these kids are having a blissful summer, all focusing on generosity and how they themselves can start to do small acts of kindness in their own community.
Thank you so much, Jallah. You've been listening to the Ubuntu Giving podcast, and we are talking about radical generosity in motion. There are so many fascinating elements to this program. As you can see, we've talked about the program itself that is giving, helping students get to school and back to their homes. I mean, I've been wondering, Jallah, how is it that these kids are able to actually study when they spend too much time trekking to and fro, having to help their parents, maybe having to fetch water, maybe selling and hawking, in addition to walking to school. My goodness, this is a bus that is the embodiment of generosity itself. We've also touched on parental involvement, having parents as bus monitors, making them involved and contributing to the growth of their kids, which is literally amazing. And now GiveX, having people share their stories of generosity to inspire these kids while they are in the bus. Wow. And there's more to come, guys. I really think we need to have like a series for the
I agree.
Radical Generosity Bus program. I wonder if we'll be able to touch every bit, of what this bus entails and what it means to children and the nation at large. Jallah, I want to talk about the Giving Every Tuesday campaign that you've also added to this project. You've talked about how Giving Tuesday inspired you, and now you want to also share, Giving Tuesday campaigns every week with these kids. How does this weekly commitment to kindness and giving contribute to the overall mission of this project?
Yeah, I think this is one of the benefits of being a part of the Giving Tuesday network. There are so many brilliant people from all over the world, so many amazing people from all over Africa are part of this movement, and they all bring different concepts and unique approaches to how we want to impact our respective countries. One of the things that I have benefited from Giving Tuesday is the fact that you have so many resources in different contexts, in different format. We have them in different languages. Anything you want to do in your country. And I tell people this a lot in Liberia. I said, if you want to do something with your own work, there's an easy website. Just go to givingtuesday.org. You can find so many different ways on how to do XYZ without having to reinvent the wheel. So this is pretty much what I did. I went to the website and I went to a page that was called Giving Every Tuesday. And I just reviewed the concept on that page. I had heard about it before, didn't have the time to really implement it, but I wanted that to be a part of this bus program. And I went through and just looked through the website and saw that the amount of work, guys, if you're listening to this, the amount of work that has been put into this, you literally don't have to do anything much. You can copy all of that, tweak it a little bit so that it applies to your own culture and tradition, which is much easier to do than trying to think about all these things on your own, and then apply that. So I went ahead and they have easy ways to even download it if you wanted to. So I went on the website and just copied all of the suggestions. Again, keyword here is suggestions, right? Giving Tuesday does not say to anyone, this is what you should and you must do, right? Giving Tuesday said, oh, you're thinking of doing this. Here are some other ways people have done it in their country. And by the way, how are you trying to do that? So we can add that as well for other people to learn from you. Or if you made some
Absolutely.
mistakes, we the movement comes together and say, well, if you made this mistake, here are ways that you can prevent that mistake from happening the next time. So it's just wonderful and so inspiring to be a part of this. So I copy that content and I tweak it. It already has every single Tuesday of the year 2024. And so I updated it with some Liberian language, and dumb it down a little bit for younger kids to be able to grasp the concept. And we built that into a simple app that we put together for the bus. So the concept now is every Tuesday in Liberia, whatever Giving Tuesday has suggested around the world, because people are doing this in different countries. Whatever people are doing on that day, kids in Liberia who never ever had the idea or the access to a platform like that will now have that content readily available to them. They will learn about what does International Girls Day really mean. It may seem
Mm,
like something so big for them, right? Where,
right.
they're looking for a nonprofit organization to do something about it. But from a Giving Tuesday approach, they will know how they themselves can do something about it in their own community. Whether it's just going to every woman in your family and say, thank you for being in my life today. That simple thank you is so important for women on International Day to hear that. We don't even want to get into women rights issues because that's something I'm very passionate about. But these
Yeah.
sort of ideas is something we want to put in front of kids' faces so that they're able to not only see that, but they have people there to interpret those things to them, to have them understand it. And then we'll say to them, well, we hope you do something about it because we're going to ask you about that next Monday. So then following Monday, when they come back, we'll say, who did something about this? Give us some story. And if we see some really amazing or hear some really amazing stories, we'll do a little bit of a follow-up. If we have to go to that kid's community or their home to see what they did, about anything that they've learned from Giving Every Tuesday is what we are going to do. So all of these will cost us a lot, but I think sometimes you need to push aside the focus on cost and really focus on the meaningful stories that need to be told. So that's our approach to Giving Every Tuesday. Kids will learn about it on the bus. The following week, we encourage kids every single week to do something about what they've learned the previous day. We know it's going to be some kids will do something about this because they're already very excited to just even sit on a school bus that their parents, their great grandparents have never sat on a school bus before, because that doesn't exist in our country. So to have one that they can sit on and dedicated to them, where we greet them with passion and with love, where we say to our bus driver, you do not work for Yes Liberia, you work for these kids. All of those things are so brand new of an idea to them. They can't imagine that someone from somewhere else that they are not even related to can do this for them. And that person happens to be a Liberian like they are.
Wow. I am so emotional. Wow. I'm sure at the end of this podcast, by the time I'm listening to it again, I can count the number of wows I've said on this podcast. Let's talk about educational expeditions because I know this is also another element to this program. You intend to, take these kids to various expeditions. What do you hope to achieve? Okay. And how does this play a role in recognizing and nurturing academic achievements of Liberia's students?
That's a very that's a really good question, but a very difficult question as well. But it's something we've given a little bit of a thought. I think sometimes smaller nonprofit organizations take on too much burden or burden themselves too much because they're trying to fix all of the problems and they're trying to do everything. That's not an approach we take at Yes Liberia. Additionally, some nonprofit organizations, we try to make sure they are tweaking. I think I mentioned this earlier. They are tweaking a program because some powerful person said this is important. So now they want to do whatever that this is, right? We don't do that. And sometimes we even shy away from applying or participating in certain programs because it doesn't really relate to us. It doesn't bring any value to our kids, whether there is money to be donated to us or not. So when we think about Liberia from an educational standpoint, first of all, when you're in Africa, let me speak of just Liberia. Africa is a vast place. I've been to so many countries in Africa. I can speak to a few. But in Liberia, our families are so, I would say, boastful when their children are doing well in school, right? They tell everybody about it because they know it's the only way out. If you play sports in my country, Liberia, it is considered a bad thing. Everyone wants you to focus on education. But you travel to Europe or the United States, and kids are actually really, really serious about sports. Their parents put them into that because it's an additional way out to become make something of themselves. We don't have those opportunities readily available in Liberia. So everyone focuses on education. So when we started this program, I thought about my own life where my parents used to say to me, "Oh, you're very smart," or people in my family would say you're very smart. And you think you are because you start to believe that. And then people give you opportunities upon opportunities, and you get to a certain place where everyone in your environment probably have the same academic talent as you. And you realize that being smart is not good enough, right? Working hard is something that you must do, and applying yourself is something you must do. In other words, you can't study just for a test to pass. You have to continuously study for life. And that's what we try to push down to our kids. Yes, there are standards for education. We want them to meet that standard. This is why we don't even, when we ask kids to be on our program, they have to take some sort of basic test we give them. That test does not come from the Liberia education system. We go to countries that I personally believe have a better education system in Liberia, and we draw questions for that, and we ask our kids to answer those questions. I will be very bold with you and transparent with you guys. We ask questions from countries. I shouldn't say this because not some of the kids would know, but we pull questions from the education system in Kenya, in Nigeria, and in Ghana, and we combine all of those questions together by the different ages and the different classes, and we give those questions to our kids in Liberia. So when kids pass those tests in Liberia, we know for sure that they are gifted enough, so to speak, academically, or they have the potential to do well if they are ever given an opportunity to be placed in environments that are even more challenging. Lots of problems with challenges with Liberia's education system. And I think the same can be said for every country, not only in Africa, but all around the world, from corruption to teachers training to even the access and resources at school to kid safety. Those are things that we cannot solve all of those things. But what we can do is to continuously motivate and inspire them that despite those challenges, they should remain focused on education. They should do well to help people in their community, and it should always be ready when the opportunity arises. Because I was there, right? I was there when the war was going on. I lived the life. I lived in the communities most of them are living in. And I was able to get out because not necessarily because a program like this exists to inspire me or a program like this exists to pay my tuition. And that was good enough. We know the world has changed. Paying people's tuition to be in school is not good enough. We have to find other ways to be in their lives. And I think by doing this, we'll have these kids on a trajectory that's going to excel them to another level. And we know it's happening already. We get some really amazing kids on our program. We want to do more of this work. We want multiple buses in Liberia. And we want kids to start saying, I learned. I want to be very careful saying this, but I think this is going to become a reality. I want kids in Liberia to start saying, I learned more about life and about education on the Yes Liberia school bus than I learned in my classroom. That's what my goal is, at least for the education process or program on the bus. And overall, my goal for Yes Liberia is not numbers. Most people will say we want to impact 50,000 kids or 20,000 kids. I'm not interested in that because those numbers will happen by default if we're doing great work. What I do want to happen that in the next 10 years, I will want one of these kids to be running this program so that we can step aside and give them an opportunity. We don't see this obviously in Africa a lot. People are super, I want to say super old, but people are very mature. They're in their 60s and 70s, and they're still doing what they were doing in their 30s or 40s, not leaving room for any younger generation to take place. We want to change that here at YesIB. Our entire staff needs to change within the next 10 years to make sure everyone on our staff are people who benefited from the program. I hope that answers your question.
It does, and a lot more questions. I had other questions I had in mind, and you've answered those questions as well. Thank you so much, Jallah. This has been amazing. It is my desire that a lot more people hear about this podcast. I'll do everything I can to make sure people listen to this podcast. I'm going to send this podcast to my mother, my brother, everyone around me to, look at what's happening in Liberia. And I hope this inspires people to also, emulate what you're doing because it's amazing. Right about now, we are moving to a different segment. This is the Ask the Host Anything segment. So in this segment, I'm going to hand over the mic to you. You are running the show, and then you can ask me any question, or you can steer this conversation in a direction that sparks your curiosity. Yes.
Wow. That's super important. Well, you mentioned, and I hope it's okay for me to just jump into it real quickly.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned a few times that you've thought about other things you want to do in Africa, and I've met you, I think, only once, but we've talked a little bit. We've talked a little bit on the phone here and there, but meeting you in person shows me that you're already doing so much for not only for within your own role and responsibility at your job, but you're doing so much for the continent overall. You're challenging different spaces. You're being bold. I remember you telling me about the period idea that you wanted to really dive into and make that a conversation that's comfortable for people in Africa and around the world because it needs to be done. And so when you mentioned a few seconds ago on the call that you've been thinking about what you need to do to really learn about it in your own community and not assume, I'm wondering what's stopping you from doing that?
Nothing actually. So we're in November, right? So we're winding down for the year. And something that I do is I think about my year, kind of reflect on what has happened, and then I plan for the new year. So my friends and I, we have this thing called the Smile Outreach where we come together once a month to do something. It's usually an outreach that teaches kids rather about sexual predators and how to make informed sexual decisions. We also do menstrual programs, and we do material relief in different orphanages, right? So what we're thinking of doing is be more structured. When we come together and we do these things, how can we inspire people to also do this in their community? But beyond that, I think I would like to do what you've done. Maybe speak to these girls in these schools and ask them what they truly want, or what would be a better solution to them. The question could be, if I bring this to you, would you prefer this or would you prefer this? I feel it's better if I do it that way than just go to the school and do a sensitization program without really understanding what they would rather have. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. I think that's the best way to go, because sometimes what you think their challenges or their needs are, maybe completely different from what
Yeah,
you are
I'm
thinking.
beginning to see that.
Um,
Thanks to
yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it won't be so much off the chart because you're already closer to the community, so you see things and
Yes, I say
so
it all
very
the time.
yeah. So you will be able to figure things. I'm pretty sure. The
Thank
next
you.
question, you're welcome. The next question is a simple one. When are you really going to start making plans to come to Liberia?
Oh, you know what? When you were talking about the bus project, I was like, God, I need to be in Liberia. I need to see these things for myself. I mean, I don't mind. I'll think about it, see if we can make this work, and really, 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 really leverage every tool at my disposal too. So my visit is something comes out of my visit, like just like we did at the summit, you know. So
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
I
yeah.
would
That
think
would be
about it.
wonderful. Let us know.
Absolutely.
I will make sure you won't have to stay in hotels. You stay with
Yay!
you have a
I
free
mean, you've
place
just
to
given
stay.
me. I know you stayed with you stayed in the homes of 10 different students, and they were really generous about it. So it already gives me this vision that Liberia is a good place to be in, you know. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. And I'm gonna pass the mic back to you.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. It's been beautiful learning about the radical generosity boss because it's literally generosity in motion. Thank you, Jallah, for sharing this incredible insight into this program. Your commitment is amazing. Your commitment to transforming education and fostering generosity is inspiring. To our listeners, as our journey through the radical generosity in motion comes to an end, we hope you've been inspired by this incredible story. Today, we've witnessed how a simple idea as a school bus can become a catalyst for change, for education, for generosity, for solidarity, even, and patriotism, permit me to include. So, thank you so much for joining us. And remember, your small act today can set in motion a wave of radical generosity for tomorrow. Keep the wheels turning and the hearts learning. This is the Ubuntu Giving Podcast. Bye.